Hey, what's up everyone? It's the Gamers Weekly here. I'm your host, Antok64, and today we are going to be playing some more Tom Clancy's The Division. This is going to be our 4th episode of Campaign Masters. As you can see, we are currently level 6. We have a military G36, a classic M44 carbine, and a first wave X45. We are currently on, I think, the mission. Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about crafting materials. You know, as if you guys have watched some of our recent videos for Campaign Masters, you've seen us kind of a little bit going over what crafting is and kind of a little basics of like what we'd recommend for farming, that type of stuff, because you're really going to need a lot of that for in-game content. So we're going to go on and head over here to the crafting station. I'm going to talk a little bit. So these are your weapons. You can craft these. I think you get these blueprints without having to do anything, but you have to get about 5 green weapon parts. Now these can be found all over the place. You can dismantle your weapons. You can find them in those little weapon part crates, anything, and then you guys can see we're just kind of going through the mods that you can acquire. And then we have the gold weapon parts and blue weapon parts. These are things you can craft. You can craft also tools and electronics, and then fabric. Fabric is for armor. Electronics is for that as well. Tools and weapon parts are for weapons. Tools are more focused on kind of modding your weapons, or mods for your weapons, and same thing with electronics or your mods for your armor. And then you need 15 blue for anything, whether it be weapon parts, tools, electronics, or fabric, to craft a gold, and you need 10 weapon parts, tools, electronics, or fabric to craft a blue. And obviously the higher level the weapon parts, electronics, or tools, or whatever it is, the better gear you'll be able to craft. Crafting was a really big thing when the game first came out. You know, a lot of people would save up a lot of crafting materials and keep reballing their vectors or Navy MP5s or whatever they had, which, was a really big part in the game, but they definitely have kind of strayed away from crafting. It's definitely it's a lot easier to go out into the dark zone or go farm heroic missions to, for endgame. But when you're first starting out, definitely make sure you're good at crafting and have a lot of crafting materials. So we're going to go ahead and do the subway morgue mission to get the engineer Paul Rhodes. As you can see, we haven't really gone too much across the map trying to figure out where all the safe houses are, but we are going to go ahead and go to the subway morgue mission. Now this mission is with the cleaners, and in my opinion the cleaners are probably one of the harder mob enemy types, if you will. They have these flamethrowers that will snipe you, which is it's insanely difficult. Even when you're in the end game, if you go into Dark Zone 6 in end game, going up against these level 35 sweepers, they're gonna two-shot you with that flamethrower, and they can shoot you from a really long range. So make sure you watch out for that, because they are going to be really damage heavy on you. You do have the same, it's kind of like the same thing. You have your shotgunners, sort of. You have your assault, and then you have your heavies, and then kind of like the sergeants or engineers, if you will, for this. Now the rushers or shotgunners, whatever you want to call them, are not actual people with weapons. They actually just have melee weapons, and they have a riot shield, so they normally will be carrying an axe with a riot shield, and they're pretty easy to pick off. You just really got to make sure you're watching out for that axe attack, because they will kind of lunge at you when they do knock you back a little bit or give you some stagger. So you really want to make sure you watch out for that. The shields actually are pretty easy to take down, but I wouldn't really recommend doing that, mainly because you want to try to conserve your ammo for different enemies that are going to be attacking you. They are going to get really close and up and personal with you, so you really want to make sure you watch out for that as well. But they are pretty easy to hit in the head. You really want to try to aim for that head to take out that enemy as soon as possible, because you do have other enemies that are going to spawn around you and probably end up killing you if you're too distracted with those rushers. So then you have the assault. They have ranged weapons, but if you get too close, they will switch to these flamethrowers, and these flamethrowers are really what do a lot of damage. As you can see, I actually end up sniping this guy right here. I take out one of his tanks. You can shoot their tanks, and they're kind of like the weak point, if you will. It'll catch on fire, take a few seconds, and it'll blow up. If there are enemies around them, they will actually end up damaging the enemies as well. As you can see, that flamethrower guy right there taking out, you can see that, I end up taking him down. You can shoot the little tanks that they have on their backs. That will do a lot of damage to them, and it'll end up one-shotting them, as well as probably end up destroying a lot of the health that that person next to them has as well. So really, if it's possible, try to take down that pack, because it will save you a lot of ammo, especially like when you're getting to higher levels. Being able to shoot down that pack is going to really allow you to deal a lot of damage to a lot of enemies really quickly, as well as being able to conserve your ammo. You can use it on guys like these right here, these rusher guys. As you can see, they're really, really squishy, but they do deal a pretty good amount of damage, and since they do cause that stagger, you probably will end up going down because of that. I've gone down because of that, a few times here and there, just because they do cause a lot of stagger, and those enemies that are all around you are going to be attacking you, and once you keep getting that stagger, they're just going to keep hitting you, and they do deal actually a pretty good amount of damage depending on like what your armor count is. But when you're a lower level, you don't really have too much to worry about, mainly because all the enemies are pretty squishy. They don't necessarily do the most amount of damage, and stats aren't necessarily the most important thing right then and there, as not as important as they are, in that late game, when you're doing these incursions and all this other stuff like that. So as you can see, these guys are pretty easy to take down. These guys are level 6. As you can see, I took out his little pack. It will, as you can see right there, it will blow up other enemies that are around them. Didn't deal the most amount of damage to him. Only did like 237 damage to him, I think, but it did end up taking him down, mainly because I did shoot a lot of that health down for him, so he didn't have too much work to be left, too much damage to be dealt to him, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like the outside part. This is kind of the beginning of the mission. This is actually a pretty easy mission in my opinion. The final boss is a little bit tricky to take down, mainly because he is a heavy, so he's going to deal a lot of damage to that, but most of the time he won't actually end up hitting you because he has those giant flamethrowers, and they don't only really deal a lot of damage to you whenever you get up close, so you really got to watch out for that. Definitely recommend using using sticky bomb to kind of stagger him. You really want to shoot those oil or gas tanks that he has on his backpack, or whatever you want to call it. I think there are 3 different weak point areas where you can shoot him. That'll deal pretty much take down a majority of his health. So make sure you're prioritizing those, because normal weapon damage to him isn't necessarily going to be the best way to end up killing him. You're going to really want to try to take out those packs, just because of that extra damage that it will end up dealing. It's actually a really big explosion, so it will end up damaging a lot of enemies that are around him, but when you do in fact get to taking out that boss, there won't really be that many enemies, if any enemies at all. You really want to prioritize all the other enemies before you take down the boss, because as you can see, those guys right there will just destroy you with that flamethrower. They really do deal a lot of damage, and when you're getting up close and personal to the actual main boss of this mission, he's going to do a lot of damage to you, like a lot. So you really need to make sure you're keeping your distance with this guy. Pick up a sniper if possible. Shotguns do pretty well for up close and personal encounters, really being able to take out those gas tanks on him really quickly, but I wouldn't really recommend that, as a sniper will allow you to shoot him from a range. You can deal a lot of damage to him, which is really nice. So yeah, picking up these restocks, make sure you pick up these restocks as much as possible to give you your assault rifle ammunition, if you have their SMG, whatever weapon you're running, your primary weapon ammo will be refilled, as well as your secondary. So you really want to make sure you're prioritizing those restocks, because you will end up running out of ammo, even though these guys aren't necessarily the hardest guys to kill. So once you get to this part, this actually isn't too difficult. You just gotta take down a few guys over here. You will end up having to carry, I think, a fuse box. You have to end up carrying, I think, 2 fuse boxes. There will be a rusher right here. As you can see, they're really squishy. I can just take them down a couple of shots, and then I think there's an assault right over here. Yep. You just take him down, pretty easy to take down. You got another guy, which you really want to make sure you're watching out for, because you do not want to get hit by that guy. I actually didn't have the most amount of health, so I really need to prioritize that guy, so I didn't end up dying. But you just pick up the fuse, you can place it right over here. The next one is actually a little bit further, but we'll talk about that a little bit once we get to that actual point. Once you place in this fuse box, you will then you'll have the objective complete, and then you just need to eliminate these cleaners. These guys are pretty easy. They have, I think, 2 assault characters that'll come out, and then you have 1 of the chargers or rushers, whatever you want to call them. Pretty easy to take out. As you can see, they are very, very squishy. And then you have these guys that'll charge you. They have, I think, 2 chargers and then 1 assault, and that's pretty much it. I almost go down right here. If I didn't pop that heal, I'll get behind cover. Make sure you prioritize getting behind cover. So you can use smart cover. Smart cover is actually a really good perk to use if you have unlocked the Roy Benitez security wing. You can use smart cover. Smart cover is a really, really nice talent, if you will, because it does allow you to deal more damage, take less damage, and depending on what mods you have, it will end up benefiting you more and more. But that's kind of all in the future when we get to those points. So once you get done with that part, you then come to this little area over here. There are a couple of different enemies that you're going to be encountering. You will encounter, I think, a few snipers, but you mainly is just these guys right here. As you can see, that tank really does end up going down really quickly. It's not very difficult to destroy. They're not anything like what they are in the end game. As you can see, you can shoot down their shields, which is really makes it a lot easier. But I still, like I said, I would not recommend it, as it will take out a lot of your ammo or ammunition. You then have a couple of these guys right here. You have a new objective there. You will encounter a purple guy right here, so make sure you watch out for that. I just took a load of damage from that guy. Really need to be careful with that. I threw an incendiary grenade, and then you have these bombers, I think, up here, grenadiers, if you will. You just snipe them. Takes 2 snipes to the body, 1 snipe to the head. I try to snipe this guy right here, but I fail because he goes upstairs. But then you got to reload and all that stuff. So once he's down, you'll be done. You'll have the objective complete, and then you got to go to the next fuse box to take care of. I actually get a pretty lucky snipe right there, 1 shot. But yeah. So once you get to this fuse box, it'll be a little bit longer. What I'd recommend is not picking it up right away. You do need to end up picking it up right away because you want to get those enemies to spawn. But what I would recommend is switching to your primary, getting it to as far as possible, and taking out those enemies, because these guys, since you're only going to be using your sidearm, and you will only be able to do a walk. So you really got to make sure you're being careful right there. Your damage on your pistol will probably end up being, really good. Pistol damage is actually really good in this game. I really do enjoy using sidearms, even in late game. I was doing a clear sky incursion. I was able to take down a couple of shotgunners with just using my pistols. So pistols and sidearms are really nice to use. It all kind of depends on which ones you're using. I would honestly recommend an X45. I wouldn't really recommend using anything like one of those 44 Magnums if you have them, or any of the double barrel shotguns, just because you can't really mod them out, and they're not necessarily the best because, one, they only have 2 shots. They do deal a lot of damage, but if you're going to want to use a shotgun type like that, you're really just going to stick to an actual shotgun on your secondary or primary instead of going for that sidearm. So there is a little oil barrel you can shoot down right there, and as you can see, it does take a really long time to walk. I kind of wish that there was at least being able to jog, if jogging would be really nice to have on here, because walking, even when there aren't really any enemies, it just really gets repetitive and really annoying. And even when there are enemies, it would really help out a lot if you wouldn't have to walk super slow. So jogging would be really nice to just kind of have, not full on sprint, but at least a jog. I think would be something really cool that they could add into the game, but we're not really talking about that. So then once you have completed that, you'll come into the final encounter. This is where you encounter the boss. This isn't actually super hard. There are there are not too many enemies that will spawn. A main part of it is just waiting on this guy right there. So yeah. Alright, so once you're done waiting on roads, you'll then come to the warning, no respawn zone. And then you'll have these enemies right here, really easy to take down. They're kind of in the worst position. You have this rusher guy that'll come up there. I actually end up missing a couple of my shots, and I have to end up reloading. No worries, end up taking him down pretty easily. He does actually miss his shot, which is kind of weird, but yeah. So then you just gotta wait a little bit longer for some of the rest of these cleaner guys to come out. They'll come out of this door over here. You'll have a couple of rushers, and then you have an assault guy that'll just kind of camp in the back. Make sure you're prioritizing those guys. They will sneak up on you. Although you do want to watch out for that assault because he will shoot at you from a little bit of a range, and that makes it, it's pretty difficult to take him down, and he'll do a lot of damage to you if you're not careful. But, you're also trying to take down those rushers that will also deal a lot of damage to you. He came down the steps for some reason, and I ended up taking both of them down pretty easily. Once those 2 doors are done, you'll be on the 3rd door. Really easy to take down. They're all in a group, so if you do get lucky, you can get like a clutch, some sticky bomb, and take most of their health down if not killing them. You will encounter another purple assault guy. You'll have a grenadier, and you'll have 2 assaults, 2 grenadiers, sorry, one assault. The one assault is going to be a purple, so make sure you watch out for that because they do deal a lot of damage and they tank a lot of damage as well. They can take about an entire magazine. Now both of these elevators will end up coming down. He'll be in the left elevator, the one that I'm pointing at right now, the actual boss. And you can see he is a heavy or LMG guy, whatever you want to call it. I actually end up managing to take a pretty good amount of chunk out of his health. I have a few of these rusher guys coming up and trying to kill me. Want to prioritize those guys first before you end up taking down the actual boss. I'm trying to take down his little oil tank right there, gas tank if you will. And then you also have the assault guy that will spawn. So taking this guy out, look how much damage that flamethrower is doing, and it deals so much damage from a range as well. So that's really, really OP, if you will. So make sure you are using the first aid ability, using your first aid med kits, whatever you can is going to really benefit you the most. I actually have combat medic as my talent. This is definitely what I'd recommend, as it kind of acts like what the overdose ability is for the first aid once you get the mod for. I'm trying to snipe this guy, but can't seem to find his head. Get a few shots on him. Once you get your actual shield down, he's actually really easy to kill. The shield is really going to be the main bullet sponge, if you will, so make sure you're taking that shield down as fast as possible using anything that you can, and boom, we take him down. We are now done with the mission, and I'll be right back, and we will kind of talk about a little bit about what I would recommend for the tech wing. Alright, and we are back, about to go and talk to Paul Rhodes. You can just go ahead and skip this cutscene, and once the mission is completed, you can use the laptop, and then you will get the control room. This will unlock the skill turret as well as a perk to where it will allow you to increase your inventory by 10 slots. This is very good because it will allow you to hold more stuff without having to worry about coming back to put it all in your stash. The turret is actually a really nice skill if you're kind of looking for more of a distraction type thing, but we're going to go into some of these other ones. So we have Central Heating, which gives you the talent Tactical Advance, Demolition Expert, and the perk Energy Bar. Perk isn't necessarily the best because it just increases the bar effect duration by 5 seconds. Demolition Expert is actually pretty decent because whenever you kill a hostile with an explosive, you will increase the explosive damage by 4% for 15 seconds. And Tactical Advance, whenever you complete a cover-to-cover move, it will increase your damage, weapon damage by 2% per meter for 10 seconds. This is actually pretty good if you really would like to run with that. That works perfectly fine if you have like a really, really long different cover that's really far away from you. You can add on a lot of damage, and Tactical Advance is a great one. Demolition Expert is actually pretty good as well. So we're going to go ahead and move to SATCOMs. We have Police Up Fear Tactics and the perk Resource Assignment. Reveal all Division Tech crafting nodes on the Dark Zone maps. Not really the most useful for whenever you're a lower level. Really want to use this for when you are a higher level. And then you have Fear Tactics. Applying shock to any target triggers a 30% chance to apply the effect to all enemies around him at 10 meters. And Police Up, kill hostile with any skill for a 10% chance of auto refilling all ammo types to capacity. Pretty decent Police Up, but it's really just down to chance. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend running with SATCOMs just because, I don't know, I don't necessarily like it that much. It's more built around towards like later end game. Recalibration, you get the perk Stat Switch, which means you can unlock the item switch, which means you can recalibrate, basically re-rolling your perks on your weapons and armor. You get the Tech Support, kill a hostile with any skill is deployed to extend any active skills duration by 10%. And evasive action during a cover-to-cover more move incoming damage is reduced by 30%. This is great for if you're kind of running for more of a tank. Evasive action is really nice. With Recharge Station, you have the talent Wildfire, the talent Death by Proxy, and the perk Dark Zone Funds. Increased looted Dark Zone Funds gains by 10%. Pretty good if you'd like to go into the Dark Zone, but I wouldn't really recommend going in there too early in the game. Wildfire, applying burn to any target, basically trigger. It's the same thing as the one with SATCOMs, except it applies a flame. So what I would recommend is getting the recalibration. This is going to benefit you the most because with recalibration you are enabled to recalibrate some of the stuff on here. So if I wanted to recalibrate this, I could try to get firearm stamina or electronics, or I could just get more increased kill XP, or I could get, ammo capacity if I wanted more. Recalibration is going to be extremely good for late game because it will allow you to reroll your stats on weapons and armor. So if you don't have say you want stamina instead of electronics on a chest piece, which definitely you want, I could just switch to the recalibration system or recalibration station and just reroll it for 300 credits. It honestly will take more credits to reroll it more than once. I actually have a pretty nice roll at my backpack, so I want to keep that. I also have all my gloves, critical hit chance, so that's all good. And we have 17 firearms and 15 stamina. That also looks pretty nice. We have pulse critical hit damage. I could end up re-rolling that, but I don't really want to. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. Comment what you guys would like to see next. Anything, whether it be guides for mission masters, anything you guys want to see for newer players, or what you'd like me to put out there for campaign masters, anything like that, just let me know down in the comment section below. This video did take a little bit longer than usual, so a like would definitely be appreciated. And also, sorry about the late posting. My time schedule's kind of mixed up, so sorry about that. But yeah, we'll see you guys on the flip side. This has been the Gamers Weekly. I've been your host, Antog64, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.